So being a Nikon ambassador is actually a great honor, that, especially after the time I put in as a photographer. You know, it's gratifying to be selected by your peers and those in the industry to actually represent a brand. So being a Nikon ambassador, one of the best things that I like about it is the fact that they're actually making it possible for me to go out and spend more time with photographers to share my passion of photography. I actually remember the moment I got the call from my good friend Mike Corrado to be an ambassador. It was a gorgeous summer day, and my wife Sharon and I were out on our deck, sitting in the chairs, literally watching the clouds go by and enjoying a glass of Merlot and some cheese and crackers. And we're just sitting there, and the phone rang, and there was Mike. And I honestly had no hint that the program was coming, or even more so that I would be asked. So I probably, one of the few times in my life that I was speechless when Mike explained what was going on, and it sounded great, and I really didn't understand that I was going to be asked to be an ambassador. And then he popped the question, you know, and I don't remember if he said exactly like take a moment to think about it, or you need time to think about it, but he said something in like that, and he couldn't get the words out of his mouth before, you know, I said yes, because the possibility of working even closer with the Nikon Corporation and be able to go out as one of their ambassadors was not only a great honor, but it was gratifying to know that after decades of doing what I've done, it was being recognized as being successful, and, you know, wanted to flourish even more. So the whole process was really quite overwhelming, and I was on cloud nine for a long time after that phone call. Well, probably my most gratifying ambassador experience is when I'm working with a number of folks who start out as just your basic, you could say, hobbyists, right? They had no intention of wanting to make an income from photography or trying to make an impact with their photographs. And as an ambassador, helping them move down this course to the point where first they became NPS members, so Nikon Professional Service members, and then, you know, actually getting through that application process and being accepted and seeing their excitement was really cool. And as an ambassador, some of these folks I helped along have now gone on to the point where photography was, I don't want to say, it was a little bit more than a part-time income, to one of my favorite guys, we call him Vertical Bob, who's just a really great guy and has a really incredible niche. He photographs cranes, not like flying cranes like I like to photograph, but construction cranes. And he's doing it all across the globe, these big, tall cranes that make the big, giant buildings. His thing is photographing these things, and he's become incredibly successful. I think he's up to his 12th or 13th cover, in fact. Well, it's a common question. What's that one critter that's elusive or you want to get out there? And I very affectionately call it the bastard. And it's called a white-tailed hare. And it literally lives on my property. I see its droppings, you know, on my driveway, in my meadows, my yards. I spent probably about 100, 120 hours each winter on snowshoes trying to get it in my viewfinder. I've only got 2 photographs of it. Both of them are slightly fuzzy. Both of them are shots of its butt in the air as it runs away from me. The thing is, in the wintertime, when I'm driving from my home in Mammoth Lakes up to Reno, where I catch my planes, more than once in a winter night, he's literally at the night, and I'm talking about 1 a.m., 2 a.m. when I'm driving, he's on the side of the road just staring at me as I go by in the truck. And I don't know if it's like some demon in him saying, you know, nanny, nanny goat, here I am, knowing I can't stop and it's total darkness, or what, but I've seen him for almost 20 years and I only have 2 clicks of him. So he's the one that I still would really like to get shots of. So one of those things, you know, when I first started out looking for direction as a photographer, I knew I wanted to do critters. Making money shooting critters is a challenge, but making a difference is even a bigger challenge. And it's one of the things where my mom volunteered me to do a project. She's ran a nursery school, and one of her dads there worked for the Forest Service. And she volunteered me through him to sit there and survey for a bird called the least bell's vireo. This is very early in my career. I'd only been shooting for a couple of years. This is back in the days of film. I sat there and I just have this kind of sixth sense for finding bird nests. I always have. So I worked for the Forest Service as a volunteer, and I spent my mornings in a place called Mono Basin behind Santa Barbara, California. And I was out to find territories, find nests, count eggs, and then nestlings. Then usually everything was done, so the afternoon was for me to photograph these guys. And using really early Nikon technology for TTL flash, I was sitting there photographing the birds coming into the nest. Two things were going on. One, they were coming back with all these different insects. And then two, I'm getting some, basically really kind of beautiful photographs of a bird that is considered as drab and gray and dismal. So after doing the project for about 3 years, almost 4 years, at this point in time, I had the photographs and I wanted to do an article. And it so happens the article came out literally the same month the bird was listed as an endangered species. There was fewer of 100 left in the world at the time. The article came out, and as it turned out, there was 2 gentlemen in Southern California in Oceanside who went for a walk each day. The one gentleman walked up to the other gentleman's house to pick him up every morning, and this one morning he came up and he said to the guy who was picking up, he said, "Hey, you know those little birds we always see singing down there, that little forest track?" And he said, "Yeah." He goes, "Well, I know what they are finally." And he showed this gentleman my article. And the guy goes, "Oh, wow, well, they're down there bulldozing that right now." And these gentlemen instantly called the Fish and Wildlife Service to tell him this, and they stopped that bulldozing. And I was told a story a few months later from the lead biologist from the Fish and Wildlife Service, and she said, point blank, she goes, "Your article saved the species from extinction." So that impetus of marrying biology and technology, understanding the nest, seeing what it is, and then using the Nikon gear, especially with TTL flash, to get the shots, and then getting that story out. It's been the impetus of my entire career. It gave me instantly jet fuel to ideas and the knowledge that success could come from it with hard work. And that's probably the thing I fall back to every time I go out for a new project is that lofty goal of making a difference with my photograph.